Hi, Rich Heller, newly returned Christian. Day 5, I believe it is. And today, a couple of things happened today. I went out, I go out, I work in landscape right now, currently. I will most likely be coaching in the future. And the reason I'll be coaching is because I'm not afraid to ask people things. And I've never been super fearful about the truth, but since I've come back to God, I'm even less afraid. I met with this gentleman today, and his right hand was injured, and I could see that he had shame or reluctance about it in some way, and I felt like I needed to ask him about it. And so I did, and I said, "Hey, what happened there?" I said, "Is that a birth deformity, or did something happen?" He said, "Something happened." He volunteered that it was play, and that it was complicated, and I eased him off it. And I said, "All right, hey, sometime we can go out together and talk about it," because he clearly didn't want to talk about it in the moment. I mean, it was very personal. But so, what was the significance of that? I was thinking about it afterwards, and I was thinking that, first of all, it was kind of like the elephant in the room, and it's not like every time I see someone who's in a wheelchair or who's doesn't have sight, or something like that I say something. But for this one person, I was directed to talk to him about it. Like the little voice inside me was saying, this needs to be addressed. So I brought it up, and he actually was more relaxed and comfortable with it afterwards, and with me. There was whatever his concern was, whatever his feeling about it was, had diminished. And then there was the other side of it. I mean, I could see that this man had deep shame and fear, probably around how that had happened. At the same time, there was a light in his eyes, and I felt like I wanted to say to him, what I wanted to say to him was, "Hey, Chris, if you give yourself to Jesus, you don't have to have that sadness and shame anymore. I mean, that can all be taken from you if you're willing to let it go," is what I wanted to say to him. And at the same time, I'm building a relationship with him. So it's not like I felt like I couldn't just come out and go there right away. And I will be working with him more, so I'm sure that the opportunity will present itself. But the point is that as children of God, we have a responsibility when we see things in people that they don't need to have inside them, to share it with them, to let them know, there's a power greater than yourself that can liberate you from this. You don't have to live like this anymore. And why is that important to me? I lived with shame and fear for decades, and it used to show up as blaming you. It used to show up as I'd get mad at you and I'd blame you for my shame and my fear because I didn't want to see it in myself. So I just get mad at other people. Or I'd hide. Like this guy, he's not much on anger. He's a hider. I'd hide. I'd hide in a bottle. I'd isolate and be alone. And none of that's necessary. First of all, I'm never alone anymore. God is always with me. He's palpable. And if he's not palpable, there's something inside of me that's pushing him out. And if there's something inside of me that's pushing him out, it's because I'm falling back into fear and the need to control and desire to feel like I'm in charge, which I'm not. I was watching a young Christian do a video on promises today, and he was just rolling it out, like promise after promise. It had to be like a 5-minute video, and it was juicy. I mean, I could see how people would get really excited by it. For me, it was like a little too much information, a little too fast, but it was juicy. And the thrust of it was, we don't need to be afraid today. We don't need to be concerned because we have God's promises to rest on. And what was missing for me about it was the piece I was just talking about. Like, we can rest in God's promises, but we need to act also. It's that faith without works is dead. I have faith that when God brings me together with someone who has something they need to work through, and I can see what it is, and I identify with it, and I understand it, that there's an action I need to take. You know, when I'm walking down the street next to a crackhead and I see a stem in his hand, there's something I need to say. You know, no matter what the situation is, God gives me opportunities to do this, and gives you opportunities to do this too. Well, that was a lot juicier than the earlier recording I did. It's good to be returned, and have a great evening.